Hello, Algebra 1 class. Today we're going to be looking at special products of binomials. The first thing that we're going to look at is what happens when you square a binomial. So the first example is x plus y quantity squared. When we square something, it means multiplying it by itself. So the first thing we're going to do is take x plus y multiplied by x plus y. Since we have two binomials here, we're going to multiply them together using FOIL, or first, outer, inner, and last. So we start with our first term. So x times x is x squared. Then we're going to go to outer, x times y, which is xy. And then inner, y times x, which is the same as x times y. And then last, y times y, which is y squared. Notice that our outer and inner terms are exactly the same. It's as if we doubled them. There are two xy's. So this simplifies to x squared plus 2xy plus y squared. When we look at the pattern that we see that the x squared is the same as our first term squared, and the y squared is our last term squared. And the 2xy is taking our first and last terms, x and y, multiplying them together and doubling them. So this is our pattern when we have a squaring of a binomial. The first and last terms are always squared, and the middle term is the first and last terms multiplied together, then times 2. Let's take a look at how that would look like with the following examples. We have 2x plus 5 squared. So our first term that we're going to do is we're going to take the 2x and it's going to get squared. So 2x squared. The middle part, there are two of the terms multiplied together. So we're going to have 2 multiplied by 2x times 5. And then finally, our last term is our last term in our binomial squared, so plus 5 squared. Simplifying, we get 4x squared plus 2 times 10x, so that's 20x, plus 25. Let's try that again. This time we're going to square the binomial d minus 6 squared. So again, start with our first term. We're going to square it. So we have d squared. Then we're going to have 2 of our middle term. Our two terms of our binomial multiplied together. So d times negative 6. And then finally, the second term or last term of our binomial squared, negative 6 squared. Simplifying, we get d squared, negative 6d times 2, which is negative 12d, and then negative 6 quantity squared, which is positive 36. So d squared minus 12d plus 36. Let's practice a couple more. These two have two variables in them instead of just one variable and a number. So this time we're going to do 3x plus y quantity squared. Again, we're going to start first term squared, so 3x quantity squared plus 2 of the two terms multiplied together, so 3x times y, plus our last term squared, y squared. Simplifying, the quantity 3x squared is 9x squared. Multiplying 2 times 3xy gives us 6xy. And then finally, our last term, y squared. Okay, one more time. Again, starting with the first term squared, so that's x squared, plus 2 of the two terms multiplied together, x times negative 2y, which is negative 2xy, then plus our last term squared, so plus negative 2y squared. Simplifying gives us x squared minus 4xy plus 4y squared. Okay, that's our special product when we square a binomial. Now let's take a look at two other binomials. Our next two binomials are binomials that look almost the same. One is x plus y and the other is x minus y. Everything is the same except for the operation sign that joins the two terms. One is joined with a plus, the other is joined with a minus. Let's see what happens when we multiply these two together using FOIL. So first, we take the x times x, which gives us x squared. Then we're going to do outer. X times negative y is negative xy. Inner, y times x, which is xy. And last, y times negative y is negative y squared. Notice now that my outer and inner terms, the two middle terms, are exact opposites of each other. We have negative xy plus xy. Those two terms add to 0. So this leaves us with just our first term, x squared, minus the last term, y squared. So whenever we have two binomials that are the same except for the operation joining the two terms, the outer and inner terms will always cancel out to 0, leaving with just our first term squared and our last term squared. So let's try a couple of examples. Here we have x plus 3 multiplied to x minus 3. The two binomials are identical. One has plus, with one has minus. So we're going to have just the first term squared, x times x, x squared. And our last term, 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. Again, our outer and inner terms would add to 0. Same thing. We have 2x plus 5 and 2x minus 5. The two binomials are different only by the plus and the minus sign. So we go just our first term squared. So 2x quantity squared minus our last term 5 squared. That gives us 4x squared minus 25. Okay, again, two binomials. They're identical except for the operation joining the two terms of each binomial. One is subtraction, the other is addition. So all we need to do is our first term, x squared, and our last term, negative 2y times 2y, which is negative 4y squared. Again, the outer and inner terms would add to 0. One more time. 3x plus 5 multiplied to 3x minus 5. So first, 3x times 3x, 9x squared. And last, 5y times negative 5y is negative 25y squared, with the outer and inner terms adding to 0. That's our lesson on multiplying special products of binomials.